This is Plastic Adventures.
Hey everybody, it is Steve with the PATC, and I am joined by our co-host Doug. And on this episode of The Sandbox, we're going to start the first in a series of, I don't know if you would want to call it State of the Union, mini reviews. Maybe it's Love It or Lose It, regarding some of the recent entries in some of our favorite brands. So what we're talking about is maybe Masters of the Universe Masterverse or Transformers since Titan returns to current. Uh, Anything that's come out recently, we're sharing some of our loves, likes, and maybe some dislikes about it. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Transformers, which is a big one for both Doug and I.
Yep.
I think we're going to start with going back as deep as probably Combiner Wars, Titans Returns, and then kind of working our way forward.
Yep.
So we are certainly in a blessed era where there's tons to talk about. So why don't you join us on the first of this series of mini episodes talking about some of our favorite franchises. So as far as the Transformers go, Doug,
Mhm.
you want to start off with a Love It?
Yeah, actually, I do. I got one since we're going all the way back to combiners. I have a love it that Steve is a hate it, right? And he knows which one I'm gonna pull out. And I'm gonna tell you why I love it. And Steve will tell you,
Oh,
and Steve
Doug.
will tell you why he doesn't love it. All right. But
Oh,
okay, so
Doug.
if we're going back to
Uh,
combiners, here's the guy that I think is a perfect example of things that Transformers did right, and Steve is going to be disagreeing. But this is Volcanicus, right? He is a combiner of the
wait,
five
wait, what's the name of that one?
Volcanicus.
Oh, I thought you said Trash Canicus.
Oh,
Oh, I mean, because that seems like about right to me. I'm old, sorry.
you
Why
oh
do you
geez.
love
Okay,
Volcanicus? Because like
so
you're the only one.
no, I'm not the only one. I mean, but okay, but I will tell you why I like this particular one, even though there are some things to point out why Combiner Wars was probably less than ideal for some things. But when we talk about Volcanicus specifically, we're talking about the Dinobots, right? The five Dinobots that combine that came out in the G1 era. Um, and back when I was a kid, you know, we were watching Transformers, and you saw Devastator, and you're like, yeah, that's cool. All these Transformers can combine, and then you see the Dinobots, and they're like, that's cool, and then they don't combine, and you're like, they should combine. They totally should be a combiner. And it took until the Combiner Wars, which was like I don't know how many iterations of Transformers after that, where we finally got Dinobots that can combine.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think all of us out there in the sandbox when we were kids all kind of, I mean, even when we played at recess, at some point we even had to like role play that this thing was happening with the Dinobots turning into a giant.
Mm-hmm.
There's a perfect number of them, five,
Yep. Yeah.
just like all the other combiners. But
Yeah,
um,
it was almost like they had the perfect idea, and they got right up to the point right before combining and went, oh, let's go focus on something else. So,
yeah, so
but like I said though, there are some things to pick apart about the Combiner Wars. One is I do not like their arms. All of them are their legs. You can see all of their legs, this kind of split bicep looking thing that they have, which I don't like. I get that they had to come up with a uniform way to make them all combine, because the whole point is that you can combine different ones to create your own combiner robot, right? You don't have to do the exact like they do in the pictures or like they show on the box. You can combine them any way you want to. So they had to come up with a system that allowed them all to kind of combine the same way.
yeah, it was very much like a Scramble City kind of a thing, where they had different combiners, limbs going on to different
Mm-hmm.
torsos. In some cases, it was disruptive, like Superion's leg sticking onto Menassor's leg, and then
Mm-hmm.
he couldn't move around. Um, so I get that. I'm gonna say this for Volcanicus. Boy, was that a stupid figure when you put them all together. but boy, are those cool figures when they are not combined.
Oh, absolutely. In fact,
Yeah,
these are my
it
favorite
was about
versions of
damn
the
time,
Dinobots.
that we got our Dinobots that were not some like awful Beast Wars repaint, some ugly ass looking thing that was never supposed to be a Dinobot, or 5 new Dinobots and they're just these other dinosaurs with different names. It took a really long time for us to get those, and the individual figures are actually incredibly cool. The detailing was very nice. You know, they were very conscious of the gold paint and all the
Mhm.
stuff that went into them. The proportions were very good for the robots. I don't like that you had uh, four deluxes and then like a Voyager class Grimlock, because he was bigger than the rest of them. But I ended up buying a set of knockoffs and hanging on to my Voyager Grimlock. The oversized knockoff scaled really nice. So
Mhm.
currently that on that shelf behind me is essentially Titans Returns Dinobots, because they turned out so well.
Mhm.
Uh, I will share one since it's right here within grabbing distance. You mentioned the issue with the arms.
Mhm.
So this is what I've done with mine. Are we seeing this okay?
Yep. Come. Oh, what'd you do
Yeah.
there?
So what I do is I actually do shorten up the arms to show Superion. It keeps them a little bit more proportional. And I mean, this has been the first time we got a Superion that all like hooked up and combined together.
Yeah.
So, I actually,
And not in a janky way.
yeah, not in a janky way. So I was actually really thankful to be able to collect these guys and get a Superion. One of the highlights, as well as the Dinobots, because quite frankly, most of the other figures, because of this universal transformation thing, they ended up sacrificing aesthetically. Like when you look at the classic Autobots, they did like Ironhide and Sunstreaker and Sideswipe.
But
Uh, they
they did
just
not
didn't.
look too much like themselves.
No, they had that giant peg thing in the middle, that could
Mhm.
either go up or fold out to make him an arm or a leg or whatever. The Optimus Prime was probably one of the worst Optimus Primes that
Yeah.
I've ever seen from that series. Megatron was not much better.
Right.
At least you could get a version of him that was really cool, like this metallic silver and black. But uh, so as a line, it was really cool to kind of see going back more like a G1 Focus. But the Titan or uh, Combiner Wars, I'm glad that thing kind of like petered out and went away.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough, like Computron was terrific, but for whatever reason, we did not get the right colored Computron here. We only got a gift set for like G2 colors.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Well, and
I
then they tried to bring in some that were never a combiner in the first place. So taking like Skylinks. Okay, so he was supposed to be the body of this new Combiner Wars that combined with Hound and Wheeljack and others, and they had to make it so that way Skylinks is one of Skylinks's main functions was sacrificed, right? You can't split Skylinks anymore in the Combiner Wars. He was one figure, and he could only turn into the dragon, or he can turn into the space shuttle, but it was still connected to the base. So it was
yeah,
not.
so like yeah, that bird mode thing with the 4 legs, that's all that you really got out of him.
That was it. That was it. And that was one of the main functions of Skylinks, was that he split into two already. So there were some drawbacks to the Combiner Wars, but overall it's what kind of jump started us into this modern Transformer era. So that the good thing about it is it started us on this right path.
Yeah, because you went from Combiner Wars to Titans Returns, which actually featured some awesome figures.
Yeah, and in fact, we're still getting some remolds of Titans Returns figures in all the way up to now.
Yeah, there's a few things that are still kind of coming around. The Headmasters, I don't like that gimmick was shared by like virtually all of them,
Yeah.
but we got a sweet Ultra Magnus, like a great update. We hadn't had an Ultra Magnus forever and a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that figure was really awesome that came out. You got Power Master Optimus Prime because of Ultra Magnus, who, aside from having to stand with his legs a little bit spread apart. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't really, he can't stand straight up like most of them, but terrific looking figure there. And you got the headmasters again. So that whole
Yep.
run of the original 4 headmasters, you got to have those again. So yeah, Titans Returns. Oh gosh, that was in Titans Returns. We got Titan scale figures. We got Metroplex.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We got a Metroplex, and I think we got an Omega Supreme too, didn't we?
Omega's a little further down the road.
Is he?
He was one of the other lines, yeah, because we got Metroplex, and Omega
Fortress
might have
Maximus,
been
right?
I
He was
think
the big
yeah,
one.
Fortress came just a little bit later because Fortress Maximus was a remold of you know what, Metroplex might have been. Boy, I'm really failing my Transformers brethren here, but he might have been Combiner Wars when Metroplex came out. Because Titans Returns, would have made sense that Headmaster Fortress Maximus went with Titans
Right.
Returns. Yeah, and then Omega was one of the War for Cybertron series that had come out. I don't think it was Earthrise. I think it was the one that preceded Earthrise.
I see. For some reason, I thought there was an Omega Supreme that was with Titan before War for Cybertron, but I could be wrong.
No, but that Omega Supreme kicks ass. That's the best Omega Supreme ever. I'm lucky enough I have the 3 Titan scale figures. I managed to get Metroplex and Fortress Maximus for really, really good prices. I managed to get Omega Supreme for retail and shipping. So not super awesome on that one, but when the pre-order came up,
what was that like? Retail a couple of years ago, not retail, not now prices.
Yeah, they're about 40 bucks more now, but
yeah.
So yeah, the Titans Returns I thought was a terrific series. You had way more hits than misses there.
Yeah. I liked like you said about the headmasters when we got the original ones. I liked those headmasters. They reissued them again when we started having the retro box versions of them. So we didn't get the retro G1 molds, which everybody was kind of hoping for, but we did get the Titans Returns molds in the retro G1 packaging, with slightly different heads on those.
Yeah, I think that the Takara releases came with the toy accurate heads, but it was kind of neat when they first released them that we got the cartoon accurate heads. So I was never the hugest fan of headmasters. I only had Chrome Dome when I was a kid. But I really loved the gimmick of the little robot, turning into the big robot's head. That was kind of cool. But
yeah, I've always been a big fan of if you can put a little robot inside of a bigger robot, that's a great toy, right? So when you can do that with the headmasters and make them be part of the actual vehicle mode, that's a good win.
Yeah, and they're smaller than their original headmaster counterparts, but they still took the time to make it to where the guys could ride inside of the cockpits on the robot.
Yep.
So I thought that was a terrific detail, and I was happy to find them. I will tell you one thing that has kind of disappointed me about going all the way back to Combiner Wars and then into Titans. I really hated the Walgreens exclusive characters that were hard to find.
Yeah.
I never got a chance to get the 5th Aerial Bot. When they first released that line, you got some weird helicopter for some reason instead of...
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I want to say it was... it might be Fireflight. I can't remember, but I still don't have that Aerial Bot to this day because that's $100 figure to get that.
Right.
And then they did it in Titans Returns. I want to say it was Highbrow that was one of the 4 original headmasters that was a Walgreens exclusive. So I just happened to, luck out and find one at a Walgreens. So they did kind of step in it a little bit when they started doing these exclusive, Walgreens exclusive figures. I know they got their crap together at some point because now they're pretty readily easy to find,
right.
but in those early lines it was pretty rough.
Well, at least they weren't the Japanese exclusives, right? The only ones that you can only get in Japan. Like the friggin' jump starters. The jump starter, those were like...
Yes.
I know.
We got Top Spin.
but not Twin Twist.
Twin Twist.
Yeah, like that makes no sense to me. Why release one in one area and not the other?
Yeah.
But they flipped it around, I guess, on this one where the Diaclone version for the re-release that was just done for Legacy was available for America, but not in Japan.
Yeah, thanks. Anybody out there want to trade me? I'll just go scoop one of those readily available Diaclone versions. Trade you any day of the week for a regular color Twin Twist. That's one of them that I'm missing.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just can't tell at all that I'm a little bitter about that.
Does that bring us up to War for Cybertron?
Yeah, let's get into the War for Cybertron trilogy.
Yeah, that's the one that that as a toy collector, I really started to refocus on Transformers again. Not so much because of the cartoon. We won't get into the cartoon aspect of it, but the toy aspect of the War for Cybertron, I think, was possibly the best line of Transformers we've got. Since
it absolutely is. Yeah.
And we're talking like these are not like ones that are masterpiece size or that kind of engineering. These are, mass release, shelf available toys that were available in almost any store, right? So
yeah, you could just walk in and find them at your local Walmart or Target.
Now that doesn't mean that they were always easy to find. They were pretty popular, so as soon as they hit the shelves, a lot of them were gone right away. But some of that started to peter out once we started getting back into our shipping things. We're starting to get back to normal. So now there's more of them on shelves than you've seen probably in a long time.
There are. I mean, it was almost like the very first series of War for Cybertron. They did these Cybertronian modes, but holy cow, when you transform the robot, they're like so super accurate to the cartoon characters. Well, they look so good, and they were so close to the Earth mode vehicles anyways. I mean, it's almost like, why would you bother buying any more? But to answer that question, because it's there, because the eyes are blue on this one, because of this.
But the War for Cybertron series did a really good job, in my opinion, of combining what they looked like in the cartoon to what they looked like in their toy mode. They kind of had like this really good combination of both. So you got something in your hand that was very reminiscent of the cartoon, but also reminiscent of the toy that you used to have. So it hits that nostalgia, right in the middle of the target. And so I think the best one that kind of defines what that series really did was our favorite, Optimus Prime, right? This Optimus Prime is the best mass release version of Optimus Prime I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, bar none. Ever. There is not a better mass release of Optimus Prime. And I mean, that's like perfect down to the details. He turns into a really, really cool, like extremely acceptable version of that cab over engine semi truck. And what's really funny, right? Like, this is the Earthrise Optimus Prime, so it looks like the semi truck from Earth. Right. Just a series or so before that, you got him in it like his Cybertronian Freightliner, cab over engine style. Barely any different aesthetics.
Right.
So all they did was just smooth the details out a little bit and base it on the same exact toy. I bought that one.
Yeah.
And I bought an extra that I have on the shelf. And then I bought the Earthrise Optimus Prime. And then I bought the Earthrise version that you have right there. This is bar none. I say probably one of the absolute best of the series that's come out. But you can go down the line and Sideswipe looks like Sideswipe, Sunstreaker looks like Sunstreaker, Wheeljack looks like Wheeljack.
I've got a couple other examples to show off of ones that are like really, really good examples of why the War for Cybertron is probably the best line of Transformers since the original G1 releases. But to continue on Optimus Prime, I mean he's got a few more steps in him than the original one did, but they're not difficult steps. They're intuitive steps. So you could really kind of look at this guy and move him around a little bit, and after a few seconds of tinkering with him, you could figure out exactly how to transform him. So Another
Yeah.
thing for the War for Cybertron is they kept those transformations in a simple enough way that they were still fun to transform. Not like
Yeah.
Titans Returns or some of the other Combiner Wars where it was like, oh, gosh, these are just a pain in the butt to transform. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's where you differentiate or you delineate between the collector's lines and the children's lines. I had always been a big advocate for simplifying transformation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, part of the fun is you know, you make that sound and you turn the robot into a truck, or and then you go and he goes back
It's
to
back to a robot. Exactly.
yeah, back to robot. So these toys really started to get back a lot more closer to fun at this point, but they looked terrific and the engineering was great.
Yep.
The one complaint that I'm going to lodge on pretty much everything from War for Cybertron on is QC is a little bit spotty.
It does
These are
seem to be
all
lacking
ball
in some of
joints
them.
and tension holding these things together. And sometimes they're coming and the figure's already loose right out of the package. So
Yep.
that's not a problem for me, obviously, because that's where they live, right? But now if you're someone who likes to play with these and have a little bit of fun with them, they can get real loose real quick. And some of them don't have very good heft to them. You know, they're pretty hollow.
Correct. Yeah.
But I'm 44 years old. I want to walk by them and smile every time I see them and maybe occasionally handle one. So as a collector, I think that kind of gets a little bit of a pass because most of us are not playing with these on a day-to-day basis. But if I was a kid and got these, they're gonna be so loose within a couple of days that
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I still like to collect them. I still like to put them on display, but you know me, I also like to take pictures of them, right? So I
Yeah.
take them down off
Yep.
my shelf. I put them in fun poses. I take a picture of them and then I throw them up on Instagram. So I like being able to look at them and transform them and hold them. And so heft and you know, kind of this ruggedness is kind of an issue for me on some of them. Like Trax, I think is probably one of the worst Transformers to come out in that line. He's so fragile right out of the box that he doesn't stand up right away. And
Boy, he looks nice though.
but he does look great, but don't handle him because he'll snap. But you did bring up one that I wanted to show that I think was probably one of the better Transformers in that line, and it's Sideswipe, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
what's so great about this one is another one is his transformation. Super easy to do. Very intuitive. And in fact, it's probably one of the best ones that's the reason why they keep making mold after mold after mold of Sideswipe and re-releasing him, because it's just such an easy, well-made, you know, mold of a good character.
Look how good it looks.
Yeah.
And
this isn't
is
even the bright red one, right? This is just the first the Netflix one.
Yeah, so they like the first War for Cybertron, they put this like dirtiness to them. They wanted a certain like feel. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it doesn't totally detract from the figures. As they went on and on, the figures just cleaned up, and
Yep.
we eventually got some slightly tweaked versions of Sideswipe and Sunstreaker that were slightly more earth modey, but they didn't have any of the you know
Right.
just distressing or anything on them. But amazing. I mean, that figure, you could literally say, this is my favorite figure of the line, and almost close your eyes and point at all of them.
Exactly.
Because
they're all pretty much very well done.
Yeah, and a lot of the ones they might not have been able to squeeze into the main line of these Earthrise and all of that. We're sort of getting some really good ones released under the Studio series as Transformers the movie 86. So that's where we got a terrific Hot Rod, and we got Ironhide and Ratchet coming soon. Jazz, man, look at that figure.
Jet, this is probably my most favorite 86 Studio series figure so far, because of how much he looks like the cartoon and how much he feels like that original toy.
Yeah, I mean, like the detailing on the legs, the wheel wells, that kind of reminds you of the original toy.
Yep. Sorry, my camera's
again. I mean, how beautiful is this? And this is just a mainline retail release. Yeah. It's not special. It's not, you know. I don't want to jinx it, but it's not a $100 masterpiece.
Right. But it's
Give it
still
another
a great looking figure. I mean, and he's the one that I put up there with the rest of my War for Cybertron Autobots, because he fits right in line with them, which is why I think, the War for Cybertron rolls into the 86, which rolls into the Legacy series. They're all kind of related in that respect.
Yeah.
And they all look good, but there's one more that I think is like the epitome of what this whole line was really about, and really just knocked it out of the park. And that's
Yeah,
Blaster.
I knew you were going to show Blaster. I was just thinking about it. And he transforms into a boombox.
Yeah.
This is unabashedly, absolutely unabashedly like a straight out mini masterpiece version of the original toy.
It is.
He doesn't turn into a tank or anything because it's silly to be a boombox. He doesn't
Nope.
have some other alternate mode. He literally just turns into like this awesome boombox, and he's his chest opens up just like that. He's weighty. I don't know if they spent all the plastic budget on this, but yeah, comes with a little translucent. Is that eject?
Eject.
Yeah. And we were just having this discussion the other day. Why the hell are these tapes translucent? Hey, guess what was translucent back in the day?
All the tapes.
Cassette tapes. Yeah, yeah. Most of them were translucent plastic, and you could see the film all wound in them. So
Yeah.
it just made good sense once we thought about that. So, I mean, just top to bottom, Ultra Magnus, War for Cybertron.
So the first one, the Siege one, even though he kind of had a big kind of a busty center, he was still a gorgeous figure.
Yeah,
and all they really changed with him when they re-released him in Kingdom was just gave him a little bit more of an earthy look for that cab, but he still transformed exactly the same.
Yeah, I remember that, looking at it being like, man, this is the best Ultra Magnus ever. I love it. And then they're like, well, we're going to do an Earthrise Ultra Magnus. I'm not going to get that. I love this Ultra Magnus. He's cool. See it in the store. F.
Yeah.
Pick it up. Spend the $49.99 because the head sculpt is slightly different.
Yeah, but guess who got a really good Siege Ultra Magnus out of that deal?
Yeah. I don't know who that could be. Yeah. But hey, he's a parts former. The cab transforms to a robot and you put the parts around him.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's stuff like that has just, I'm flabbergasted to think that they could do better than what they're doing right now.
Well, and they keep showing us that they are doing better. I mean, each one that they come out with a few exceptions, have been getting better and better for each one. So
yeah, and they're even getting the love for the mini bots. They're putting those in a deluxe scale, so you're paying the $24 for them, but they're like 2/3 the size of a regular deluxe figure. But I mean,
like
once
those ones. I do.
They're terrific. They are better than the Scout class ones that I collect, but it's all scale, baby. I want them.
I know.
I want them.
You like to keep
them to be the
scale.
little guys. Yeah.
So there were some that did come out that I think were kind of less than stellar, though. So if we want to be honest, the whole line was not completely perfect for War for Cybertron 86 into Studio or into Legacy. And one of the first ones I'd like to point out is this one that they've kind of they've remolded this one a few times now. But Grapple. So he's got a great body, and Inferno, right? I was looking forward to Inferno, and I still think he's a great looking bot, right? But there are engineering problems with these bots and plastic quality. Pegs break almost immediately. So if you put any pressure in it, because you're supposed to kind of connect the pegs together in order to make them stay tight and stay transformed, you try to remove those pegs, you try to transform them back, and snap, those pegs are gone. So
it's interesting that you bring that up, because I actually, aesthetically, I love these two, and I love their scale. I've never transformed them. I took them right out of the box in robot mode and put them right on the shelf.
Well, don't, okay? Because their pegs are fragile, and their what are they called? The pivot points are fragile too. Not so much on, if you see Artfire, and Holler, I think, is the newer one for
Yeah, for
I think they
speed,
fixed some of those.
Velocitron 500, yeah.
I think they fixed those, but for grapple specifically, I don't know if it was the orange plastic. I don't know if it was what, but his hinge points and his pegs snapped almost immediately.
Well, now that you're bringing up the flaws, one of the ones that disappointed me the absolute most, uh, and I was really sad to see it, but I remember when I first found Laser Optimus Prime from Legacy. I was so excited because I love the original Laser Optimus Prime, and this one had some really like modern updates, and he featured this silver chest like the Japanese release had. You can open it up, and the Matrix is in there, and it was just really a really cool divergence. If he's going to be one of those, Kenworth style semi trucks with the long nose,
Right.
it's really cool to see him go. The arms just will not stay on at at that bicep swivel. They will not stay on the figure.
You move it once and it seems like it slides right off of that whatever that pivot joint is, right?
Yeah,
where it's got a slide in pivot joint and it doesn't have anything that connects it to it. So if you move it, it just slides right off the plastic.
So the problem, it's just this U-shape thing that slides against a peg. There's no, it's not like, that the little track that the peg goes in. It's not like it's a little skinnier and then rests, like a channel and then clips in. The thing just slides into place and it comes right off of there. You can't even pose him. And the head.
The head is the worst part because you can't, it's on a ball joint, but the ball joint is so small that if you tried to move his head left, right, up, or whatever, or even to move it back in the transformation, it just goes right off. Pop, it's gone. The head pops right off.
So I was a bit disappointed when I bought the figure. It displays nicely on the shelf, but that's just one of them that you just don't touch. Just have it because it's there. Yeah. So that was a really disappointing update.
Yeah, I agree. Another one that wasn't so great, and it's because I love the look of it. I love the look of this bot. And he transforms pretty close to the way he did it when he was in G1, which is a pretty miraculous thing to do when you're looking at these updates and still make them look good. But again, so a lot of these bigger ones, I don't know if you noticed this, but they all suffer from this single point of rotation that is very small.
Uh-oh. That scares me. It reminds me of the Autobot cars back in the day, where if you didn't unlock the cod piece and tried to turn them, they just snapped.
So there's a lot of weight on top and a lot of weight below, and all you have is a very small pivot point. And it gets looser and looser every time you mess with it. So this is another one that I'm like, I think it's great. They tried to bring him back into the into this G1 feel of transformation, but I honestly think they should have given these a little bit more like locking clips on the side or something to keep that center pivot point from getting so loose and so overworked.
Maybe a ratcheting joint or something would have been a lot.
But for what it is, it's just a friction pivot, and just a little bit of friction just wears that down. And
I have the Wreck Garb, but I'm so awful. I'm like the worst. I take these robots out of the box and put them right on the shelf. I don't even I might have transformed Earthrise Optimus Prime like once just to see it for the novelty, but I tried to transform Leo Convoy, and the transformation is just as convoluted as the original one.
Oh, really?
So it means it's just barely holds together when he's in robot. So I stopped about 2/3 of the way through and just turned him back to robot and put him on the shelf.
Like, not even worth it.
Yeah. So overall, Transformers, way more hits than misses. They have terrific product that's still coming. Yeah, they got some filler product that I'm not like terribly excited to see, but more Commander class offerings, which are the expensive class underneath Titans. They're all like $90 now. So Ultra Magnus coming in that line kind of gets me excited to see what all you get for that price point. They did a terrific, while we've got just a minute or so left, is there a better? Well, I say this about all of them, but is there a better figure than Commander Class Jetfire?
No, that is a beautiful figure. And mine is still on back order because they did the re-release of him, right? Waiting patiently for that one, because when I saw yours, it was like it was one of those need moments. Like thing pops off in your head and you look at this and go, I didn't know I needed this until this moment, but I need this right now.
Yeah, and he's got the little transforming symbol gimmick that goes from Decepticon to Autobot.
Yeah,
I mean, come on. There is nothing that they could have done more than that to satisfy a Transformers fanboy
I agree.
than to build in a useless gimmick like that, like the switching thing.
Yep.
Hey, you know what?
But it worked.
They gave it to us because they love our money, which I just say, like I live with people that love me just for my money, so good to go. Couldn't be my personality.
Well, I think we can still. I mean, there's a newer Transformers, right? Earthspark, which is more geared towards kids than it is towards the adult collector. But like we've said before in the past, for every Transformer thing that we get that we don't like, we're going to get something that we do like. So I can still expect a lot of great things for Transformers for you and I to come out here in the near future.
Yeah, this last several years gets a grade A for me. They've done terrific.
Yep. So overall, Transformers, modern Transformers gets a solid B plus, almost an A. And we're looking forward to seeing what Transformers has. So stay with us for our next one. We'll be talking about G.I. Joe, Masters of the Universe, and all that fun stuff. But we got to go. So see you in the toy aisles. Follow Steve on Facebook, me on Instagram, and we'll see you guys around.